Do you know off the top of your head how much stateside training the mechanics would get before they would head over there?
Before the war started, they had 4 different schools, and by 1942, there were 15 different schools, and their training usually lasted at least 3 months, and they took a test. So because you would have mechanics, you would have armorers, somebody that would work on the radios, the bombardier sight, and also your hydraulics.
So similar time periods of training, but very different course curriculum depending on what you were a specialist in. And it was all specialization. Thank you. Great question. Great question, by the way. Someone over here, I thought I saw a hand. Question up here in the crowd. Out in the Peanuts Gallery here? No? Over here? Where? Oh, hi. How you doing? Good. If I heard you right, what is the average age of a pilot that flew these? Young. Young. It kind of depended on the war. Obviously, earlier in the war, you had some pilots who'd been in, professional servicemen, had, career military guys who were a little bit older. Later on, when, the draft was on, our guys were enlisting in the program, you're getting guys either right out of college after some schooling, right after high school, guys dropping out of college or so. So it wasn't unusual to have pilots that were 19, 20, 21 years old, but you did see older pilots. Again, some of the ones who were, in command, some of the guys who were in service here before the war, they were a bit older. You would see older pilots in the bomber command. You would see in like the 8th Air Force flying the B-17s, B-24s. You had some college graduates. There was a famous pilot, Rosie Rosenthal, who actually had a law degree. And when he enlisted and wanted to fly, they said, hey, you got an undergraduate 4 years there, 3 years, 7 years of schooling. Yeah, you'd make a good bomber pilot. Somehow they figured that 3 years of law school made you a good bomber pilot. But it got a bit younger as the years went on, and more guys were in uniform, and we were building more and more birds, both fighters, cargo, bombers, etc. So, all right, great. Got time for maybe one more question? Down here. Oh, we got 2 in the corner here. How about we go to the young man all the way in the back? And I'm going to get over here so I can hear you. How wide is the cockpit? P-51 wide cockpit. Let's see. I haven't sat in one in a while. It's about this wide. I once caught a fish. No, it's about this wide. You have equipment on either side of you, right? So you've got the walls of the plane here, and then you've got equipment on either side, throttles and the like. So whatever that distance is, I didn't. The last time I was sitting in one of these, I didn't bring a tape measure with me. These are comfortable. You sit in a Spitfire, it's like sitting in a British sports car. You sit in a P-40, to me, it's like sitting in a 1930s version of a Ford F-150 pickup truck. It's got a big cockpit, it's big, truck light, etc. These, as fighters go, because we got to think of the mission, long escort missions, to me, they had a much more comfortable cockpit than some of the other planes of the time period. Okay. All right. Time to wrap. Okay, I'm getting the sign here. Hey, thank you so much. Why don't you give yourselves a hand for being such a great crowd, such a great audience. Fantastic questions, which allows me again to say, hey, commercial, please come see us. And, sorry. How about a hand for our gentleman in uniform here? All right. We call this sweating to the oldies, and we say Richard Simmons stole it from us, putting on all the leather and the shearling and stuff like that. So, let me get these guys out of the sun. Again, please come see us. Come to the USO show Thursday night. It's a hoot. I guarantee you that. And with that, I'm going to relinquish the control to the ramp, and Miss Teresa should be up shortly to entertain you with songs from the sky. And music from the tarmac. All right. Take care. See you later in the week.
Thank you, Chip, and thank you, gentlemen. Folks, again, make sure to go down and visit them at the Reenactors Camp, which is right to your left down the road a ways. You'll see their camp there. They'd be happy to show you all their gear and talk about the stuff they do. They put a lot of work into it. And welcome to the Tuesday afternoon edition of Warbirds in Review. This afternoon we've got a great program ahead of you, and we'll be having Colonel Bud Anderson, Mr. Jack Roush, and others coming out here shortly to talk about these beautiful planes and the experiences they've had flying them. But before we do that, we have with you some entertainment of a lady that's been with us for the past 10 years of Warbirds in Review, singing songs of the era, including a lot of Bud's favorites. Folks, give a warm welcome to Miss Teresa Eamon.
Well, hello, everyone. Oh, how I wish you were all here to see me. But you're here to see my favorite person as well. And as Ron mentioned, this set that I'm about to sing for you includes many of the songs that Bud has said over the last 10 years he enjoys, and some others that I kind of just see as my love letter to him. He has been one of my biggest fans, and so I'm going to sing some songs that appeal to him. For the rest of you, I think you'll enjoy these songs as well. And if you've not met me before, hopefully by the end of my program, you'll enjoy my music enough to come back later on in the week. But I want to get things going so I can get as many songs in as I can. Big welcome to those joining online on airtoairtv.com. And this is a great song called All I Do Is Dream of You. All I do is dream of you the whole night through. With the dawn, I still go on dreaming of you. You're every thought, you're everything, you're every song I ever sing. Summer, winter, autumn, and spring. And were there more than 24 hours a day, they'd be spent in sweet content, dreaming away. When skies are gray, when skies are blue, morning, noon, and nighttime too. All I do the whole day through is dream of you. You're every thought, you're everything, you're every song I ever sing. Summer, winter, autumn, and spring. And were there more than 24 hours in a day, oh, they'd be spent in sweet content, just dreaming away. When skies are gray, when skies are blue, morning, noon, and nighttime too. All I do the whole day through is dream of you. Dream of you. Thank you very much. That's one of the songs that I learned during COVID when I had nothing else to do but learn a whole lot of music, and that's become one of my favorites. I mentioned earlier on, let me just get out my little note. Oh, it's a $20 bill too. Look at that. I have a magic pocket. I wanted to mention airtoairtv.com is where you can watch all of these programs throughout the week. So if you're like only here for a day, but you're thinking, oh, I wish I could see something that's happening on Thursday, all you have to do is go to to the number airtv.com. Now I have a secret for you. And the secret is that if you use the coupon code Warbirds22, you can have access to a year's worth of programming. You get a free 1-year membership. Ladies, if your husband has more stuff than he needs, you can give him this gift and he won't know that you didn't spend a dime on it because you get a whole year free. So it's Warbirds22 and you get to get a year's worth there from air-to-airtv.com. Okay, I've done all that. So let's go back to music from the era of the beautiful planes you see behind me. And this particular song is a Joe Stafford tune, and it was one of the more famous ballads. It's a song called You Belong to Me. See the pyramids along the Nile. Watch the sunrise from a tropic isle. Just remember, darling, all the while you belong to me. See the marketplace in old Algiers. Send me photographs and souvenirs. Just remember, when a dream appears, you belong to me. I'll be so alone without you. Maybe you'll be lonesome too, and blue. Fly the ocean in a silver plane. See the jungle when it's wet with rain. Just remember, till you're home again, you belong to me. I'll be so alone and without you. Maybe you'll be lonesome too, and blue. Fly the ocean in a silver plane. See the jungle when it's wet with rain. But remember, darling, till you're home again, that you belong to me. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Now, this next song is another one of those romantic ballads from the 1940s. And I just absolutely love this. This has been recorded by many, many great singers, including Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Ella Fitzgerald. This is a song called I've Grown Accustomed to His Face. Just a little swing. I've grown accustomed to his face. He almost makes the day begin. I've grown accustomed to the tune. He whistles night and noon. His smiles, his frowns, his ups, his downs are second nature to me now. Like breathing out and breathing in. I was serenely independent and content before we met. Surely I could always be that way again, and yet I've grown accustomed to his looks, accustomed to his voice, accustomed to his face. Ba-do-dee-da-da. He's second nature to me now, like breathing out and breathing in. I'm very grateful he's a man and so easy to forget. Rather like a habit I can almost break, and yet I've grown accustomed to the trace of something in the air. Oh, accustomed to his face. Thank you very much. Well, I've got, I think, 2 more songs left for you. And this next one is Bud's very favorite song. And I'm so happy to be able to sing this for him for yet another year. I was fortunate enough to attend his birthday party, his 100th birthday party in January, and I sang it for him. And he says he never, ever gets tired of it. And so this is one that I think you guys know if you've seen me sing to him before. This is I'll Be Seeing You. I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places that this heart of mine embraces all day through. In that small cafe, the park across the way, the children's carousel, the chestnut tree, the wishing well. I'll be seeing you in every lovely summer's day, in everything that's bright and gay. I'll always think of you that way. I'll find you in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you. In that small cafe, the park across the way, the children's carousel, the chestnut tree, the wishing well. I'll be seeing you in every lovely summer's day, in everything that's bright and gay. I'll always think of you that way. I'll find you in in the morning sun, and when the night is new, I'll be looking at the moon, but I'll be seeing you. Thank you very much. But I don't want to say, don't want to end on a downer, because I started to get a little verklempt there. So I want to do one more upbeat song to you. With this song, you can sing along, you can tap your feet, you can dance, you can do whatever you want. Don't hit the person in front behind you. But let's do a little bit of Andrew's Sisters, shall we? Let's do a little bit of Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. He was a famous trumpet man from out Chicago way. He had a boogie style that no one else could play. He was the top man at his craft. But then his number came up and he was gone with the draft. He's in the army now, he's blowing reveille. He's a boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. They made him blow a bugle for his Uncle Sam. It really brought him down because he could not jam. The captain seemed to understand. And so the next day the Cap went out and drafted a band. And now the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. A root, a toot, a tootly-at and toot, he blows 8 to the bar. In boogie rhythm, he can't blow a note unless the bass and guitar playing with him. And the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. Yeah, he was some boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. And when he plays boogie woogie bugle, he's busy as a busy bee. And when he played, he made the company jump 8 to the bar. He's a boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. And at a tootly-at a root toot, he blows 8 to the bar. Ooh, in boogie rhythm, he can't blow a note unless the bass and guitar play with him. And the company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. Yeah. He puts him out to sleep a boogie every night. He wakes him up the same way in the morning light. They clap their hands, they stamp their feet, because they know how he blows when someone gives him a beat. Wow, wow, he wakes him up when he plays reveille. Boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. And a root, a toot, 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 he blows 8 to the bar. Oh, he can't blow a note unless the bass and guitar play while with him. The company jumps when he plays reveille. He's the boogie woogie bugle boy of Company B. One more? Oh my, okay. FYI, there's a hot mic somewhere behind me. I just thought somebody would like to know. Well, let's do one more. Let's see what's on my other list, because I have lots of lists and I just need a moment to get my breath back. Okay, I was going to end on a high note. I'm going to end on a historical note. This is one of the most popular songs from World War II. It was recorded as an instrumental originally by the Glenn Miller Orchestra. This is a song called Moonlight Serenade. I stand at your gate and I sing you a song in the moonlight. I stand and I wait for the touch of your hand in the June night. The roses are sighing
a moonlight serenade. The stars are aglow, and tonight how their light sets me dreaming. My love, do you know that your eyes are like stars brightly beaming? I bring you and I sing you a moonlight serenade. Let us stray through break of day in love's valley of dreams. Just you and I, a summer sky, a heavenly breeze kisses the trees. So don't let me wait. Come to me tenderly in the June night. I stand and I wait for the touch of your hand in the moonlight. A love song, my darling, a moonlight serenade.
Thank you so very much. Again, my name is Teresa Eamon. I come all the way from North Carolina to sing for you, and hopefully I will see you again. I'm here every day at 9:30 and 12:30 before the main events at 10 and 1. If I don't see you again, I hope you have a wonderful day at Air Venture and safe travels home. Thank you so much.
Teresa, thank you very much. Oops,
That's all right.
I'm really doing well with my.
This is like John's lens.
Maybe I need more money.
1, 2.
Oh, test 1, 2. Okay, we are. I think I'm back. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Bud Anderson coming around the corner here between two Old Crows. Oh, wow. Colonel Anderson. Look at that. And you know, he's quite the ladies' man, and he's got a beautiful young lady here, Charlie, escorting him. Bud, this seat right here, if you will. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Warbirds in Review. Jack Roush joining Bud Anderson here. Next we have Jim Hagedorn. Jim, would you like to, you want to take my seat, Jim?
Which one is your seat?
Well, whichever one you don't take. Yeah, okay. Okay. And John Cyrier. John is the P-39 person. The other guys here might be more familiar to you. My name is Connie Boland. I'm the founder and coordinator of Warbirds in Review, but I'm just the person who stands up here and says welcome to all of you. These guys, especially Colonel Anderson, I've known a very, very long time. I'm really proud to say he's a real good friend. Same Jack Roush, Jim Hagedorn. Recently met John, so I look forward to learning more about him. But as an introduction here to Warbirds in Review, I need to say thank you to a couple of people. And this Scott's Miracle-Gro logo that you see here, Jim Hagedorn is responsible for that sponsorship. So thank you, Jim. This would not be happening without you. Uh-oh.
You're getting a big hug.
With sponsor, I mean, so many of these Warbird owners are very patriotic, and they preserve our history, pay tribute to our veterans. I see Ron and Diane Fagan out in the audience here. They are the ones who are responsible for this production building behind us, the Quonset hut. Huge supporters of aviation and our veterans. Fagan Fighters World War II Museum, Granite Falls. So thank you, Ron and Diane. And with that, let's watch the intro video, and then we'll get into the main part of the program. If you'll direct your attention to the Jumbotron.
In 1931, Japan invaded Manchuria, and by 1938, controlled most of China. During those same years, Hitler was building his war machine. In 1939, Germany invaded Poland. By 1941, Germany controlled Denmark and Norway, Belgium and Luxembourg, the Netherlands and France, Yugoslavia and Greece, and then invaded Russia. In 1940, the incredible British fought off the Germans in the air, the Battle of Britain. For many Americans then, the mood was to stay neutral, stay out of foreign wars. Of course, that was not to be. On December 7, 1941, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan, and 3 days later, on Germany and Italy. Over the next 4 years, our country was transformed militarily, economically, and in the most human terms describable. It was the most widespread war in history. It's estimated that at least 75 million people died. By 1944, more than 2.5 million men and women were serving in the Army Air Corps. Over the course of the war, some 40,000 American airmen died. 18,000 went missing. 41,000 were captured. These numbers seem incomprehensible today. We and our allies in combat and at home paid huge personal prices to save the free world from oppression. Our veteran guest aviator this afternoon is a retired Air Force colonel. He flew Mustangs with the 357th Fighter Group out of Leiston, England, nicknamed the Yoxford Boys. He was a major at age 22, flying 2 tours, logging 116 missions over Europe. He was a Triple Ace with 16 1/4 air victories and is currently the ranking American living ace of World War II. After the war, he continued his career as a test pilot. His last assignment was commanding a tactical fighter wing in Vietnam.
Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Bud Anderson. I have to say, Bud, you couldn't see that video, but in one of those last pictures, it had a picture of 2 little kids in your arms. Those 2 little kids are here with you. I hope they'll come out at the end of this presentation. Bud is very fortunate to have 2 wonderful children. Jim and Kitty are here escorting him, and they take good care of you, Bud, don't they?
They're my senior children now.
Your senior kids now? Well, Bud, let's start out at 100 years old. What's a typical day like for a 100-year-old fella at Oshkosh? How's your day been going today? What'd you do?
Well, today, let's see. It got me up real early. About 9 o'clock.
Well, but that's real early California time.
Yeah. And we got dressed and went out to the airfield. Came out to the airfield right away and watched my airplanes fly, P-51s, and this new
P-39.
P-39. I'm 100 years old, so I'll get 2 or 3 of these while I'm here. Anyway, I came out to the airfield here, and we watched the airplanes land and take off and land and come in, and it was really wonderful to see these Mustangs. And these are the 2 guys that own these Mustangs. Then I believe it or not, I had a flight in a TF P-51, one with the dual controls, and I had a little bit of help out there getting in and out of it. Those of you who haven't seen it, they got 2 or 3 huge workbenches, got them up, and I think they were thinking about getting a crane and lowering me into the thing. And then Rob Gordon took me out in this twin. It was an actual 2-seater with dual controls. And we went up and took a lot of pictures, and just had a great time. I hadn't I haven't been in a P-51 since I was about 85, where I actually flew it.
Yeah, so if I could interject here, when he says in a P-51, you were still flying a P-51, thanks to Jack Roush, when you were 80? in your late 70s or 80. I think you were still actually flying the airplane.
70s and 80s, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So he's had a great life in that 100 years. So let's move to Jack Roush. You've known Bud for how long?
Since 1995. 1994, I got to a point in my life where I could afford to spend some money on something other than my family and my business. And my heart went right to a P-51, and I started looking for a project that I could buy. And I finally found an airplane that was being housed in City Airport in Michigan. And it had a motif on it that wasn't reflective of anybody's brave career in the air. But we fixed that. I asked around. I met a fellow by the name of Mickey Rupp that was racing a P-51 at Reno, and he knew Ed and Connie Bolin, and introduced me to them early on. The community of Warbird owners and operators was very protective of the airplanes and the people that flew them. And I think in my case, they were afraid that I'd do something silly with the airplane and embarrass the community. So they kept me between the fences, kept me on the straight and narrow. I looked for an identity to attach to the airplane, and they sent me to see Bud. They said that he had the history documented history of every ace that had flown the Mustangs, and I told him what I was up to, and he didn't send me the originals. He sent me photocopies of pictures of airplanes. He wasn't sure if he'd make that investment in me, I guess, but anyway, from the photocopies I got the idea that maybe I'd missed something. And I went back and asked if an airplane had been painted up like Bud's, and it turned out that there had been one in Europe. But Mickey Rupp had one here, but he'd taken the paint job someplace else for his racer. And I talked to Mickey, and he agreed that he'd like for me to reassociate Bud's career with his military service with an airplane that I was building. And I got a call immediately once I let it be known that's what I was going to do. I heard from Ed Bolin and from Chuck Yeager. Called me right away. He says he was glad to have me, glad that I made the decision to paint an airplane like Andy's. He said, with the 50th anniversary of the sound barrier that I broke, and with the 50th anniversary of the Air Force, that 50th or 25th, maybe it was 25th anniversaries, that there'd be lots of opportunities to fly the airplanes and to attract attention to the patriotic young Americans that what had been done to preserve our freedoms. And so I painted an airplane, painted the Old Crow D model to the duplicate of what had been known about the airplane in the service, and took it to Myrtle Beach for the first reunion in I think 93. Maybe in 94 when it was in Myrtle Beach. And I've been fast friends with Bud. He's been patient with me, and he's taught me a lot. I've enjoyed his friendship and certainly celebrate his patriotism.
Well, and thank you, Jack, for all that you've done. So let's fast forward just a little bit. But at this, yes, thank you, Jack. And in the Warbird community, we're all very appreciative that Jack became involved and interested in the P-51, because a lot of the engines now and a lot of the maintenance and where we are with the safety issues with the airplanes, we can thank Jack for his work and his engineering expertise and his passion for making them safer for all of us to fly. Thank you, Jack, for that also.
My pleasure. When Jim Hagedorn came to visit with me, he was interested in the airplanes, and he told me that he'd like for me to help him find an airplane. And I heard that he'd been flying a Mooney over in New York on his way to Manhattan, on his way to Long Island, rather, where he lived. And he'd had a couple of engine out emergencies and landed in places that you'd rather not take an airplane. And I told him that there were 3 airplanes that would do that mission for him, that I had 2 of them under construction, and I had one that was complete. And so he agreed to take the responsibility, the stewardship for the Old Crow D model. And I resented a little bit that I'd taken the identity that put it on a B model. He called it the Faux Crow rather than... But anyway, he's been a great friend, and he's been protected the airplane as well as I had, and we're in good shape with Jim.
That's what I was going to say. We could fast forward just a little bit. Jack was having another D model made, and as it turned out, it's in the paint scheme Gentleman Jim that was also one of Bud's best friends' paint scheme. And as he was finishing the new D and working on the Faux Crow, the B model Old Crow, then when the D model Old Crow, I guess it needed a new home. I think Jack interviewed Jim. I guess you can say that. And Jim, would you relate your version of what did Jack make you go through to do that? Yeah, you're hot.
Jack is a total liar. So we were looking to sponsor a NASCAR vehicle.
Truck.
Was it a truck we started
It
with?
was
Or
a
I
truck.
think we were like Cup White
You
back
you
in
can
those early
choose
days.
which one of them you believe.
Anyhow, so we're going up there. People say, Roush's got a couple of Mustangs. Would you like to go flying with him? Sure. So I never met the dude before. And he says, you want to go flying? And I said, sure. And we jump in the back of, I think it was at the time, the Gentleman Jim plane was a Glamorous Glennis plane. And so we hop in the back. And I've never met this guy before. Okay, I don't know. It's weird when people give rides and get rides. But I've never met this dude before. We take off. And next thing you know, we're like at red line, below the tree line. And Jack is just scaring the crap out of me.
I had a choice. He was a potential sponsor for my race team, and I could have treated him like I was worried about hurting him, or I could go out and set my hair on fire and catch his on fire too.
So, well, listen, my hair caught fire, and so Jack, I was interested in getting an airplane, and he said, "I'll sell you the Glamorous Glennis airplane." So I got my heart all set on it. Then he called up and said, I can't sell you the Glamorous Glennis airplane. I can sell you the Gentleman Jim airplane, which was the luckiest day of my life, because I think that that airplane, that D model over there, is a fabulous, reliable, sweet flying, like you have no idea. But anyway, so Jack agrees to sell it to me, but I don't have like military heavy tailwheel time.
This guy was a check pilot for F-16s.
I had F-16 hours, active Air Force, and that was great, 7 years. But so Jack says, well, I'll come to your office, and when he shows up, he's going to interview me. This is not a joke. It's, am I good enough? And I get the idea. Am I good enough to basically steward this piece of military history? I mean, now think about it. It's totally right. But here's the weird thing. He makes me sign a contract that I will never change the name of the airplane from Bud's name. Yeah, except here's the thing. What he didn't tell me is I'm building another one. He told me how special it was, and then and that's why I call it the faux crow. Like not the real crow. But am I supposed to talk now, or are we going to go around and around?
At some point, we'll give John a chance to talk here. But
well, he's the new guy.
Yeah, I know he's so okay.
Go, new guy.
Yeah, okay. So new guy. Okay, tell us how. Okay, this was a true paint scheme that is exactly like Bud's airplane that he had early on, the P-39 they had in training. But anyway, John, tell us a little bit about this airplane.
Yeah, I came across. First of all, what an honor and privilege to be up here, Connie, and to be with these gentlemen. I've been coming to Oshkosh with my brother for, I don't know, over 20 years, but of course getting to have the opportunity to see Warbirds in review, and thank you. And to see Bud Anderson, to be up here today in front of this with Colonel Anderson, 100 years old, what an honor and privilege, something I'll never forget. We've had this P-39. This is actually a Q model. It was built in May of 1943. And we've had this airplane in the Central Texas Commemorative Air Force since in 62 is when it came to us. So it's one of our original airplanes in the CAF. And then John Stokes, who was our founder in 1974 of the Central Texas wing, ended up having it restored. And we've been the caretakers of this P-39 since then. And over the years, it's had many different paint schemes, and including one of the early paint schemes was a Russian Lend-Lease paint scheme. And then one of our members, about 2.5 years ago, I believe it was, Vern came up and let us know that, hey, there was an Old Crow P-39. And I don't know about the rest of y'all. I had no idea. I always thought about the B model and D model P-51s being Old Crows, but had no idea that Colonel Anderson cut his teeth in fighters with the P-39 and actually personalized the original Old Crow was a P-39.
That's okay, Bud. That leads us into, okay, you had the P-39. I believe you weren't in Oroville. You were in Casper. Where did you fly the P-39 first, and then how did it come to be an Old Crow?
Well, when I got out of flying school, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. Not sure where that came from, but I guess it was watching the Battle of Britain newsreels, something like that. And so we needed pilots everywhere, so if you could convince your instructor that you'd be a good fighter pilot, your chances were very good of being able to do that. So my first duty assignment was in the San Francisco Bay Area. I went to Hamilton Field with duty at the Oakland Municipal Airport. And it was a replacement pilot training group, and you went there and flew for about 3 months, and then you went off to some fighter group in the world and fought the war. Well, when my time came up, at Oakland is where I checked out in the P-39s, old D models, and we moved around all over the place, but I didn't. When my 3 months came up, they said, "No, you're not going to go fight yet. You're going to go to Tonopah, Nevada, and join the brand new 357th Fighter Group that's being activated for World War II. We'll be the first people in it." And the lucky part of it was I get a whole new training cycle. And also, I'll be at least a flight leader, which is a good deal if you're going to go fight a war with all the guys you've trained. So while we're moving around the United States, we move up, and we first got a Q model just before we went overseas. And the Q model that I remember had a power lever, and it pushed the mixture RPM and manifold pressure up with one lever. And I thought that was kind of interesting. This is a Q model,
Yes, sir.
right, John?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell me, but okay, it ended up with the Old Crow paint scheme. Well, what happened to the Old Crow airplane? What happened to that P-39?
Well, we had it at. We finally moved to Casper, Wyoming, just before we went overseas, and I had a brand new P-39Q was all mine, and I'm not sure where the first place we painted the Old Crow on it, but a lot of people want to know, why'd you name it the Old Crow? Well, I wanted to have something to do with flying, and I wanted to have something to do with drinking, because that's what we did. But I tell my Baptist friends, it's named after the most intelligent bird in the sky, the crow, and the crow is a very canny bird, and so that part of it's true. But my drinking buddies all know it's named after that Kentucky Straight Bourbon whiskey.
And Ellie was okay with this because a lot of airplanes are named after the wife, huh? Did she?
Yeah, she says most guys name their airplane after their sweetheart or their wife. What do they think's going on here? Anyway, when we got to Casper, we were just getting ready to go overseas, and a guy by the name of Chuck Yeager flew my airplane and had some landing gear malfunction, and he had to suck the gear back up and belly landed in and pretty well ruined the airplane. A couple of days later, he bailed out of another one and got two of them in a week's time.
I could
Not
have-
his fault, actually.
A few years later, I lost a T6 too. That's okay. Okay, moving right along. Okay, thanks, Jim. Okay, so Bud, after you left Tonopah, you went to England with the 357th Fighter Group, and what's one of the stories that you think the people in the audience here would like to hear about your adventures, if we'll call it that, in flying in Europe? A guy on your tail or something like that, which was
You
very
want
unusual.
a war story?
Yeah, we need a war story.
You guys want a war story?
Yeah. And that doesn't mean it has to be true, but just the way you remember it. Just the way you remember it, we'll be fine.
Well, I got several I could tell. I'm going to tell a different one. I just changed my mind.
Okay, you could do anything you want to do.
And by the way, fighter pilots have to use their hands. You cannot tell a story without using your hands. If I had to sit on my hands here, I wouldn't be able to tell you this story. So this will also tell people what a quarter of a kill is, how I got a quarter of a kill. But this was a long-range flight. We were going to go all the way back to Poland. That's the thing about the P-51. it had such good range and good endurance. And that's what you needed in Europe to protect the bombers and go after the Luftwaffe. Actually, when you fill the thing full of fuel to go to your maximum range, it made the airplane a little unstable. By unstable, I mean you're in a turn like this. You're putting G's on top of you. You're getting pushed down in your seat, and you're holding quite a bit of force to do this. And suddenly, or gradually, the force changes, and you're not pulling on it, and you end up pushing forward on the stick, which is very unusual for flying. To keep the thing in a tight turn, you're pushing forward on the stick to do that. Some people had a little trouble coping with that, but I hadn't been to test pilot school and I didn't know it was dangerous, so I just flew it like you had to fly it. And after that, you burned out just half the 85 gallons in your back tank. The thing flew like a dream. Anyway, we're way deep into Germany, and we hear on the radio that they're being attacked at the front of our column that we're protecting. So we shove the throttle up and head on up. I'm the #1 guy in a 4-ship flight. So we get up there and you can see them. There was the ME-109. Here's the bomber stream coming like this. And here come the 4 ME-109s flying on line abreast. They come straight through the bombers, shoot down 2 of them, roll over, go down, and start to go out front like they're going to come make another pass. Well, we caught up with them about that time, cut them off the pass, and I singled out and had this one guy, and we're dogfighting. Here's the bombers are coming along just like this, and we're out here circling like this. The bombers are moving forward. We're not. We're just moving. We're staying in the same general position. And pretty soon I can see the B-17 windshields and, the distinct parts of the airplane. And I said, oh boy, I hope this guy doesn't want to go through those bombers. And I hope he breaks off first and dives away. But that's going to put him at a disadvantage because I'll then get on his tail. So sure enough, he breaks out, goes down, dives, and I just follow him. He got quite a head start, though, and we're going down to about 5,000 feet, and so he stretches it out, turns around, and I'm coming down like this. He's turning. And I think, oh my God, if I don't get a shot off here, he's going to be able to get a shot off at me head on, and head on passes are no fun. And so I said, okay, Jesus, quickly I get a good sight picture on him. I'd been through 3 gunnery schools, and I shot quail as a kid. And I got off a burst and then just went by him. And I noticed that my wingman afterwards is following me, and when he went by him, he says, "Bud, you hit that guy on the front of the airplane. The cowling came off, the propeller came off, and you hit him all over the front of the airplane, including the cockpit." And he turns like this and pulls up and rolls over and bails out. Okay, I got this guy. So while we were dogfighting, that we had 2 more guys there. The rest of my flight took care of. I noticed this one thing about being a fighter pilot. It's called situational awareness. You got to know what's going on, not just you and the one enemy. And so you got to know what's going around in the whole area. Well, while I was in this dogfight, I noticed a shadow on the ground, and I could see the direction he was going. This was midday, clear as a bell, and over green forest. And it had a big meadow in it, huge big meadow in the middle of it. So we polished these guys off, and I said, "Hey, anybody see a shadow down here?" No. Okay, get in here, get in line abreast, and we're going to go this way, west. And the last direction I noticed the shadow was going. So we're flying along about 5,000 feet, and I see the shadow again up ahead of me, way up ahead, and I still can't see the airplane. If it had been a hazy day, I would have not seen him at all. But when I see him there, okay, we got over here and we head up toward him. We pull up alongside it, and I look down here, and here's an old Battle of Britain Heinkel 111 bomber. And it's obsolete now, and it's probably being used as a transport. So I pull up there and I say, "Oh boy, how about this?" Like shooting a fish in a barrel. And then I thought a little bit. I said, my guys in my flight don't get to shoot very often when they're flying with me. And so I said, "God darn, this is a good chance to get everybody in action." And so I said, "Okay, whatever our flight number was, get into practice gunnery formation." And you never saw 3 guys get into left echelon so fast they damn near ran into each other. Because they knew that meant, oh, we're going to get to shoot. And when you're doing this practice, here's your target being towed here. And you go into echelon left, you roll in and make a left-hand pursuit curve at the target, slide out here, go up on the other side. And then number 2 does the same thing. When you've made 4 passes, then you come back and do it in the right-hand side. So I go in first, and we got an engine smoking. Pretty soon we had one burning and one smoking. and it had a gunner in the back, and we silenced him. And I was making my second pass, and I'd watched the number 4 guy, and he was a new head. And I know he knew better, but he emptied he shot all of his ammunition in one pass. And that's pretty hard to do, because you don't want to do it that way, because you burn your barrels out, and pretty soon they're coming out like this. And I knew he was just being over eager, and so I scored him with one hit on his last pass. We only had about 30 seconds worth of firepower, and so he wanted to use it in 5 seconds or somewhere in that neighborhood, and that might be a little long. And so you have ammo, and you don't want to come home empty. That's a long way home, 2.5 hours. So and I said I would have missed him if it had been a hazy day. I wonder if I haven't got my stories mixed up.
No, I think the point is the poor guy was a sitting duck, and you all got to practice.
Yeah,
I'd like to say that shows leadership on your part, that you're thinking of your men, and that's I think that's a nice point we can all take away. You've been a good leader your whole life. But, you know, they said they wanted to hear all of your war stories, so did you just combine them all? But I don't think so.
Anyway, well, I got it now. Yeah.
You got it now.
So the guy was getting lower and lower and lower, and he was aiming for this big meadow. And he was right on the deck. He couldn't climb up. They couldn't bail out. And so finally he crash lands he's got fire on one engine, and the other one is just about to catch on fire. And so he bellies it in, and he hit something really hard on the leading edge of left wing, and that broke the outer wing panel off, and they skidded to get down together and hit another rock and kind of ended up about like this. And this one guy, 2 guys got out of it, and the one guy gets out, and he's looking up there, and we're going, yeah, around there like angry bees. And the other guy starts running across this meadow. There is no place to hide, believe me. And I said, you dumbass. I'm going to give you a thrill. So I came down, and he's running like this, and I go right over the top of him, pulled up and did a roll, and then we got our flight together and went home. And that's how you get a quarter of a kill.
You know, if you happen to, you know, there are some connections that are made after the war where, you know, you have a German who relates a story with an American. Would you like to hear that guy's side of the story? It's like, yeah, this P-51 came over me. And speaking of the German side, it's going to be a real treat tomorrow. We have 2 Me-109s, and that will be here in Warbirds in Review tomorrow. Bud became really good friends with Gunther Rahl, who flew the 109 in Germany. So we have Dr. Kurt Bratz will be with us tomorrow to talk about Gunther's role in the war and what it was like to fight in the 109. Bud, you have something?
Yeah. He had
275.
275 victories. And he says, everywhere I go, people say, how come the Germans got so many victories? And he says, it's pretty simple. He said, when the Spanish had their civil war down there in Spain, he says, we went down there and started flying combat. This was in the late 30s and late 30s. And then when we came back, we overran these small countries, the Netherlands. We could destroy their whole air force in a day or two, and like Poland and Finland. And he said, whenever we took off, we were in a target-rich environment, and he spent a lot of his time on the Russian front. And in the early days, he said before they got some good airplanes, flying in Russia was like target shooting. And so he says then we end up fighting over our own country and more targets than we can possibly cover, with a raid of 1,000 B-17s and 800-900 fighters. Then so he finishes it. He can speak real good English, but he used his exaggerated German accent, and he said, the German pilots had a choice. You either got a Iron Cross or a wooden cross. And that was pretty much true. They flew until they were killed.
Yeah, they put in a lot of flight time, and they flew over their own country, as Bud said. But we'll cover this tomorrow, I'm sure. But Gunther was shot down 8 times, but I guess he'd walk home or whatever and get in another airplane and go again.
Yeah.
But a wonderful gentleman fighting for his country, like all of our people were. Warrior. That's what we were. Jack, speaking of warriors, do you have a war story about flying with Bud, or would you like to talk to us about your airplanes a little bit and the differences in the B and the D and the armament or the horsepower? Go for it.
The D and the B were within 50 horsepower or so, as long as they had the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. There was a little bit of difference in the tune-up, but they both performed pretty much the same. The B model behind me was more of a hand-built airplane than the Ds were. They built less than 4,000 Bs and Cs. The Bs and Cs are the same airplane. The Cs were built in Dallas, Texas, and the Bs were built in Englewood, California, but they were built to the same specs. But they spent time on those, making sure that all the rivet heads were flush, and they really rubbed on the B model because they were anxious to really showcase the Merlin engine and to demonstrate to the Luftwaffe that they couldn't compete with what we were putting out there. The B model is about 15 knots faster than the D model, and that doesn't mean it too much in a dogfight. It gets you someplace faster, but I'm sure Bud would have not noticed the difference in top speed. But the B model was just fitted with 450 caliber guns, and there was a problem with the loading of the ammunition if the G's were high. If you're pulling hard on the airplane in a turn, and you fired the gun, you could jam your bullets, and then you couldn't use your gun anymore. So that was the problem. But with the B, when they went to 6 guns on the D model, they fixed that. But Bud, looking at his B models, he flew his entire first tour with 3 B model airframes. There was a lot of pilots and not many airplanes that were capable of the missions at that time. And your airplane went every day, regardless of whether you were ready to fly. So his Old Crow B model was flown by a number of other pilots, and it was 2 of them were shot down with Bud not in it. He finished his first tour with the airframe that I've replicated here from an image point of view. And he was anxious to finish with that airplane, he said, because the guns were reliable and the airframe was reliable. And he I don't think he knew to start with he was going to fly a second tour, but he went over to the States, and they had the psychiatrist working on him and trying to tell him he was crazy to go back in the war, but they didn't talk him out of it. He went back in the war, and he got a D model that was twice as numerous as the B's, and he was able to fly it just himself and finish his whole tour with the D.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you. I'd like to go to Jim now. Do you have a favorite Bud Anderson story to relate, or an airplane? Have you ever scared yourself in the Old Crow? No, I retract that.
I was cheating in some dogfighting we were doing, and I didn't know I'd burned the motor, but no, we'd the Jack would be able to tape. I think it's the number 1 in 6 pistons or cylinders.
There's a propensity, a couple of the pistons to burn.
It tends to run a little bit leaner all the way in the front of the motor. And, when you're dogfighting somebody else and people say you should keep the power setting at a certain level, fighter pilots always want more power. Don't they, Bud?
Right.
So I probably had my power up a little bit, and then the whole summer, the engine's running rough. We couldn't figure it out. Jack was changing out magnetos, and
he hadn't been honest with me at that point. He hadn't told me what he'd done.
You mean I was cheating? Anyhow, Jack took the engine apart after the air show, and Connie's husband. We've been trying to figure out why is it running a little rough. So it tells you something about the reliability of these sort of Packard Merlins. I burned the edge of a piston off. I mean, there was one ring left, one oil control ring left, but everything else had been burned out. And Jack and Draper pulled off the oil filter.
I got off the sodium pentothal. I got the dripping water, the light going back and forth.
No, and I didn't rat myself out. But it was when they cut the oil filter open and it looked like silver or sort of talcum powder. That was when I have that piston on my desk now.
He made a rookie mistake in not keeping his RPM ahead of his manifold pressure. And guess who also did that one time earlier?
Look, I know everybody's hot out here. I'm going to talk about something a little different, which is kind of what we do here every day and like what our day today was. So, we brief at like 5:30 in the morning. Ray Fowler over there is our leader. And what's important here is I used to be the young guy here. And I'm going to be 67 in a couple weeks. And so what you can see is there's a new, younger group of, men and some women flying Warbirds here. And so, if you ever want to, see what happens here for the fighter guys, we brief at 5:30 in the morning, right over here. and I think we got 3 flights in, including flying with Bud, which was, I mean, no, you think about it. It's a boondoggle because when I say boondoggle, it's a boondoggle because we had 2 photo missions to do with Bud. So we had a B-25 photo ship. We had a Baron or something, some Beechcraft thing, but slow. And I think we had like 7 fighters up against it, and we had to get pictures with Bud. And it's a lot of work to sort of put the whole thing together. We had a few minutes to go play and chase each other around on the other side of the lake. But by 10 a.m., we were done. Had a kind of near emergency because the plane which would have been screwed up, I don't know if people saw the plane, it just stopped running right on the ramp here because it started streaming fuel pretty much up where we were doing the photo mission on the way home. And we didn't declare an emergency, but we immediately headed back. And then the airplane just stopped running on the ramp. So, this is one of those things where, Jack talked about the group of people, including Bud and Connie's late husband, Ed, and Connie, and a bunch of people who welcomed the new owners of these Warbirds. And you can't say too much about Lee Louderback's operation down at Stallion in Kissimmee, where I think a lot of people go to get their initial checkout in the P-51. But the best flying that happens, I think, probably in the world, happens this week in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And it's as close to, we're flying 4 ships or more every single flight. We're doing at least 3 flights a day. I think these guys went up and flew a kind of Make-A-Wish flight yesterday down south of here. Got back barely at 8. They had to convince the controller, because the airport closed at 8, that no, your watch is wrong. We're good. But this place is designed for kind of seeing all kinds of stuff. And for the pilots that are here, there's just nothing better. And this group of people, and you're the new guy, but there's a whole new generation of people, and we need to sort of start getting them up, I think, to talk. But it's a real privilege to fly and to do it with Jack and Bud and Connie and her late husband and her new husband, Ed, another Ed, and flying with the P-39. Just really great fun. And Oshkosh is ridiculous. It's so awesome. So, it's a privilege to be here with you all.
Thank you, Jim. And I'm going to stand up here. I know it's hard to keep your foot tied down for any time at all. So if you want to exit, that's fine. But I'm going to talk to the new guy.
Just give me the heave-ho.
No, I'm not giving you the heave-ho. We have, let me see, booted off the island. I think we did that to you in one missing man formation that I took part in. So his radio quit and said, okay, I'm now the one that's going to pull Jim's out. But he couldn't talk to us. But anyway, to John, the new guy, and Bud, the P-39 is more unusual than the Mustangs. So, John, I wonder if we could walk over to your P-39 just for a moment here. And Bud, just hang with us here. Are you okay? It's a little hot, but okay. So, first of all, John, tell us about this thing that's sticking out. I mean,
that's a 37 millimeter cannon. So this is kind of the predecessor for the A-10 back in the day. So up here in the front, where you would have normally the engine, is where they house the 37 millimeter cannon. Had about 30 rounds, Bud, about 30, and then 2 50 cal machine guns, Browning machine guns that would shoot through. And so Bell Aircraft, this is very unique in many ways, but Bell Aircraft figured out that in order to have the cannon, which was extremely heavy, especially the rounds and the ammunition up front, they were able to have the cannon fire straight through the prop here. And by doing that, they put the engine, as you can see, the Allison engine in the back. There is a drive shaft. I think it's like close to 11-foot long drive shaft that comes underneath the pilot legs, and then it goes into the reduction gear, which then drives the propeller. But then you also have the prop governor. It's actually round and circular to allow that cannon to go through the propeller. So very unique, very innovative design during that time.
Smile
So,
to the camera.
yeah,
while
you
do
bet.
this.
Smiling here.
Okay. And it has the Aero Products prop, which is a little different than the ham standards we have over here. Right?
It is different, and there's some people that question it. And I do want to say something about the P-39. Back in the day, being unique like it is, there was questions about that drive shaft coming loose, probably like your 39 Ford. You probably wondered if it was going to come loose and beat the plane apart. And also, too, there was stories about having the engine behind the pilot, and possibly in an accident having that engine crush the pilot. That was also another big concern. And then having the nose wheel, instead of having a tail wheel, you guys were training in T6s and other tail wheel type aircraft, and then here your first fighter has this nose wheel hanging out in the front. So a lot of things that were different to it, but it also then caused some, I'm going to say, some misconceptions, some concerns. I know you, Colonel Anderson, you even had a drinking song, I believe, that you guys used to sing about the P-39.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Feel free to chime in, bud.
Let's see if I got my
Your singing voice in?
little harmonica for hoot toot. Well, we used to have a song, and I know some of the words, and I'm sure there's some more that are more colorful. It goes like this. Don't give me a P-39 with the engine that's mounted behind. She'll loop, roll, and spin, and soon auger in. Don't give me a P-39.
Hey, if Teresa needs backup singer tomorrow, you're in.
I remember the guys used to think that the airplane would tumble, go ass over tea kettle. And I never tumbled one, but I saw some guys rat race around over the field, and he fell out of that and went through a gyration. I'm pretty sure he thought he had tumbled. And after the war, we asked the Bell test pilots, would the P-39 tumble? They said, we did everything in the world to try to make it tumble and couldn't. Then he put out a caveat. But he said it sure did have some unusual post-stall gyrations.
Whatever that meant. Okay. Jack, Bud, any comments on the P-51s you'd like to share? I think we've covered the P-51s quite often before, so we are running a little long. But anything else you want to tell us about the P-39 or your project?
One of the things I would say, and this is an interview, I had the privilege of interviewing Colonel Anderson in early March, and when we had a chance to. You were in California. We did a video conference. I was actually in our hangar in San Marcos. We have a beautiful World War II hangar where we keep our Central Texas airplanes. And the conversation we were talking about was about, you mentioned about the training that you got, and you also just mentioned it earlier in the P-39 and how that gunnery school. I believe you went to 2 or 3 gunnery schools in a P-39 before you went over to Europe. And how you felt like that was a big training advantage before you got in your Mustang.
Yeah.
And then the part also too, as we were talking through it, we had a conversation about what if would you let us have the honor of changing our colors to Old Crow back in the day, and believe you were pretty excited, and you thought that would be okay.
Yeah, I loved it.
Well, Colonel Anderson, we did it. I know we talked about, too, in the interview, we talked about having all three of your fighters together, all three Old Crow fighters together. And here you go, Colonel Anderson.
You know, I would say World War II pilots would just, if you had one airplane painted like the one you had in World War II, that would be great. But for me, I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You lost count. Is what
One in Norway. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Just been so lucky, and I'm so proud of these guys that would do this kind of a thing.
And Colonel Anderson, this is exactly the mission of the Commemorative Air Force, to educate, to inspire, and to honor. And this mission did exactly that. And so we're real, what a privilege it to be to have your P-39 back with you and reunite you to your original Old Crow.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for doing this. It's a beautiful airplane.
When are we going to see these pictures?
The pictures from this morning, I don't know. The production crew, Scott Guyot and the Sleeping Dogs, are really, really good. So I'll see how quickly they can put them up. Maybe they can run a reel of the pictures later on on the Jumbotron. I think that'd be great because there are some great pictures, just what I have seen. We can open it up to a couple of questions here. We are running really long, and Colonel Anderson will be over in the Warbird merchandise building here to. His books are already autographed. If you have not read To Fly and Fight, you really need to do that. It is my opinion. I am biased, obviously, but it's the best World War II book out there. Colonel Anderson will go from here over there, but if we have a couple of questions, I think we'll just run long and take them if you've got a question to anyone here on the panel.
This might be for, I guess, Jim, but how many of the P-51s in the world are here at Oshkosh?
I don't know. There's no parking spaces left over in the Warbirds area, so I think people were pretty worried this year that there would, because of the price of fuel, that you'd see fewer people, but there was a great turnout this year. Yeah, I think I would bet you probably got about a quarter of the world's flyable Mustangs here. That makes sense to you? Yes. So yeah, I'd say about 25, which is really cool.
Colonel Anderson, what was the top speed on that P-39, please?
I don't know. Ask John.
It was the first to go 400 miles an hour, so 395 is what they were able to do.
400.
That's miles per hour.
Like this.
400. Well, Bill made the specifications. They did it in 1939, so you got to give them that credit.
Let me ask, how would the P-39 have performed in combat, do you think, Bud? How well do you think it would have done if you had to fly that in Europe?
It would not have been worth a darn because it has a one-stage supercharger, and it kind of craps out at 15,000 feet, whereas our Mustang had a two-stage, two-speed thing, and had another blower cut in about where the P-39 gave up. So it's a matter of power.
But the Russians used it very wisely.
They were happy.
About 10,000 of them were built, and half of them went to Russia for the Lend-Lease program.
Is that why Gunther Rawls' kill ratio was on the Russian front?
Could have been, but the P-39 has the highest individual kill record of any Allied fighter. Cool. Yep. The Russians did very well with it. And in low altitude, yes, sir, low altitude, below 5,000 feet, it was very effective.
Okay, we have another question here.
Colonel Anderson, with your gunnery practice and all the gunnery schools that you went to, flying the P-39, did they teach you about techniques on once you shot all that ammunition out of the 37 millimeter cannon up front? Did that change your CG a lot and make the airplane fly differently?
I don't remember it having a real big impact on the flying qualities. Let's see. I went to gunnery school in a T6 here in the United States that tried to mock the Royal Air Force School, and of course we had gunnery in our regular primary training, and then as you gotten into the fighters, gunnery was a big part of it. Then when I got over to England, the group commander says, "Hey, Bud, we just getting the P-51s. We'd send a guy up to the port, find a crew chief, start it up, and bring it back and check out the next guy." We didn't even have handbooks for the airplane. Anyway, he says, "You go to the we're going to send you to the Royal Air Force Central Gunnery Instructor School that had Spitfires, and but you take a P-51 and fly the course with the P-51." And so that gave me, I got 35 hours in the Mustang before I got into combat in the Mustang.
Hey, Bud, what percent of people do you think had a good natural eye for shooting? You know, because I think you had a big reputation as a kind of a big high-angle shot guy.
Yeah,
what percent of people do you think actually were good shots?
Well, some of them are pretty lucky, but if you know about gunnery, you can figure it out. The weirdest one I ever got was down low, and I didn't realize it, but they say a Messerschmitt can give a Mustang a hard time down low. And I think it's a matter of pilot ability more than anything. In Europe, the airplanes were very close in performance. So the pilot had a big input on it. What was your question? Oh, angle off. My best angle off. When you shoot somebody, you really want to get right here, is what we call 6 o'clock. Right dead behind the airplane. Close into 300 yards and fire. If the guy's turning in a 30-degree cone, you can do pretty good. But when you get out there 30 plus, it's kind of questionable, and even a 90-degree shot. Now, one time I got into a dogfight. It was kind of early in the game. I think it was my first kill, as a matter of fact. I got into a turning dogfight down low, and he's coming at me like that, and I'm coming at him like that, and it's just ridiculous trying to get a shot. So I thought, God darn it, if I can't get a shot here, next time I come around, I'm going to pull through him very smoothly. And when you're in this turn, you're pulling so much G and cutting him off that you can't see him. He's underneath the nose. And that's where you have to shoot, out in front of him. So I said, I'm going to pull smoothly through the center of his airplane and get my nose up enough where I think it'll be a good lead for a hit. And then just hold it and keep pulling it steady fire burst, and then when he come out, he was streaming black gray coolant. I'd hit him in a vital spot. But that was an awful lucky shot. It was so lucky that I'm cheering. Hey, that's I finally got my first guy, you know. And then I felt, God, there's somebody's right on my wing, and I looked out there, and here was John England Air Force Base. That's the guy that it was named after. And he was down low. We were down low, and he had his mask down, and he was grinning like all get out. And he was kind of going like this, but I couldn't tell whether he was congratulating me or telling me, hey, I got that guy. And I thought about it for a minute. I said, God, you know, that really was a lucky shot. And by the time I got home, and I figured John England was a pretty good guy. I thought, I don't think he'd shoot that thing out from under me. That'd be a very sportsmanlike thing to do, right? But on the other hand, there is a war going on. So I get home and I ask the rest of the flight, did I get that guy or did John England get in there? I was out of position. I didn't see it. I was going the other way. You know, none of them saw it. So I think, well, I guess I got to go see him. And I drove over to the officers' club, and this is where we all gathered after the missions, find out what the other guys did. And I said, now, how am I going to bring this up? I'm going to say, hey, you jerk, did you shoot that down from under me? So I go over, and he's at the end of the bar over there, and he sees me, and he comes running across the club. He says, Andy, that was the best shot I've ever seen. You got that sucker out there about 60 degrees angle off. And I went like this. Oh, Johnny, you know, lucky shot. Lucky shot. And I rushed to the phone and claimed my first kill.
Thank you, Jim, for leading him into that story. That's one of our favorites. And ladies and gentlemen, again, it's really hot out here, and Kyle says we have one more question. So we go with Kyle. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was wondering if Colonel Anderson could maybe give his thoughts and opinions on the cannon on the P-39 and whether or not he ever wished he had it on the P-51.
What did he say?
Did you want a 30-millimeter cannon on the Mustang? Would that have helped?
I don't know. I actually like the 20 millimeter better than the 57.
And that's what the Russians ended up doing.
It had other guns, and you would never fire them all at once because the cannon had a trajectory like this. Poof, go like that. And the machine guns would go straighter, and about a 20 millimeter would have been closer to a 50 caliber, and so it would have. I forget how many seconds of fire we have. That's the other problem. The big guns carry big ammo and big containers, and they take up a lot of room. That's why they went to that nose configuration.
And Colonel Anderson, on the side of the airplane, on the right-hand side, in front of the door, it says Pilot Lieutenant Anderson, and it also says Crew Chief Sergeant Hino. Wasn't that your crew chief that not only was here in the States, that followed you over to the 357th?
I did. I had the same crew chief all through the war. And where's Connie?
I'm right here.
Can I tell my crew chief story now?
Yeah, are you guys okay? Yeah, no, okay, yes, sir.
Okay.
If you're good, we're good.
The crew chiefs of the world are my favorites. During the war, our crew chiefs were at home, so to speak, were back in England. They weren't doing the dying and they weren't doing the fighting, so they wanted to do their part. And I found Otto when we were first flying P-39s. And you know how the gun sight and the windshield, they sit very close, and they got a crack in there that lets dirt and dust and all that stuff, and it's right in the center of your vision. Well, he came to me one time and he says, "What could I do to this airplane to make it better for you?" And I talked to him about the gun sight. And I knew it would be, you have to take the gun sight out, clean it, put it back together, put it up there. Then you got to recalibrate the gun, send it to the range and fire it in. Work intensive. So I came out in the morning to fly, and I get in there, and that windshield and gun sight are crystal clear. Just absolutely beautiful, you could see. I said, Otto, how'd you do that? He said, "Oh, I found a turkey feather and I cleaned it out." But he was like that. He was innovative. He would go over to Air Corps Supply and find another Finnish guy, and he says, "Spark plugs come new and reconditioned." He said, "You save all the brand new parts for my airplane." And he changed the plugs on every mission. But the one that really got me was in the fall. We had a huge, all of Northern Europe was white. Had a heck of a storm over there. And it was just the beginning of the winter. And we weren't paying too much attention about the paint schemes. We were having natural aluminum like this one, and we still have dark green ones. And I noticed flying over the snow, 2 of the airplanes were green and 2 were silver. Oh, which one do you think stood out against the snow? Obviously, it was the green. So I came back from this mission and I says, "Hey, I still got all winter to go over there." And I told them about looking at those airplanes. And then I thought, I put it on the thing. I might save my butt if we could repaint it and do the natural aluminum paint scheme. And I didn't think much about it, went back in. I was the operations officer. I said, "Do that when it's laid up for heavy maintenance." And I decided to fly in the morning, put my name on the board, and came out in the morning, grabbed my chute, climbed up over this revetment, and I looked down there, and there's my Old Crow in gleaming aluminum. They had worked straight through the night and the rest of the day and the night, and had it ready to go in the morning. And they were kind of sheepish about it. They stood there kind of half at attention, and then I thought, holy smokes, did they think I gave them a direct order to do that? Then I thought about it a little bit, and I said, no, they wanted to do that. That was their part of winning the war. And I can't say enough about the crew chiefs of the world, and I suggest that you pilots out there speak to your crew chief once in a while and tell him what you think of him.
Thank you. So yeah, let's give a round of applause to the crew chiefs. I totally agree with you, Bud. Good maintenance is beyond valuable. So, okay, we will wrap it. Jack, do you have anything that you would like to add?
I've got one thought here. You know, from 1941 to 1945, we were engaged in the war in some way. And in that time frame, every single day we lost 170 airplanes. Bombers and fighters, and some of them in transit in the United States. 200 U.S. airmen and pilots were lost every day. 170 airplanes. So they're the great generation, the greatest generation that we've all benefited from, that Bud Anderson was right in the middle of, is really do a big vote of thanks and appreciation for their sacrifice that we try to memorialize with keeping these airplanes going.
Thank you, Jack. And I will add that a few years ago we came up with this history, heritage, and heroes. And that's what we're all about here, because we've just preserved an interview with these gentlemen that will go on for generations and hopefully be passed on far beyond when any of us are here. And that's very important, that we preserve our history, and I'm very proud to have all these guys who are my friends who have preserved the airplanes and allowed us to present you here. So, Jim Anderson, Jim Hagedorn. Jim Anderson is inside. I'd like for Jim Anderson and Kitty to come out and just possibly wave at you. But Jim Hagedorn, thank you again for all of your support. Jack Roush, thank you very much. John and the Central Texas wing of the P-39. I know there are a lot of other people involved in that restoration and that airplane, so we thank you for being here. And here are Jim and Kitty, Bud's caretakers, I think Bud said. So, Bud, thank you. Thank you for being our friend, and thank you for all you've done. And can we get my mic? And thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here.
We were made for grass, made to feel the joy of each and every blade, between our toes, across our backs, to run over its hills, marvel at its beauty, and find comfort in its stillness. We were made for grass. It's where we battled and celebrated, built monuments, grew families, forged memories, and pushed ourselves farther than ever before. We were made for grass, to care for, nurture, and cultivate. We've always made sure to have a patch of our own, because there's no greater feeling than being on the grass, except leaving it.
join this organization, and it's a constant learning process. And that's another thing that I love about it, because a good pilot is always learning, always.
NETA membership isn't just for pilots. It's for everyone who loves aviation, past, present, and future.
We have a lot of members that are not, they're not even pilots. They love the fact that the airplanes still fly, and they share the enthusiasm and the pride that's going on.
It's a place where history comes to life, where the future is sparked by imagination, and where aviation is more than just wings in the air.
That's what it's all about at the end of the day. What else is it for?
I was asked, where do I see NATA going into the future? And I see nowhere but up.
Be a part of it. Join NATA today.
flies by itself. It does it itself. Okay?
Yeah, you're right there with me, though.
Every time I open the hangar door to go flying, I realize that I'm one of the lucky guys doing something that I dreamt of as a kid.